What's up guys, and welcome back to another video about the Chrono Clash System Naruto Boruto expansion set. Today we're going to be creating a tier list with the existing cards in the game using a web-based application called Tier Maker. You can find this at tiermaker.com. Just type in Chrono Clash in the search bar and there's already a template that was created. So thank you to whoever made that, that's awesome. Okay, so I've went through and just given them some different names. At the very bottom we have unplayable. This means a card that I think is just horrible. You should never include it in your deck. There's also the meh category. These are going to be cards that you can put into your deck, but they're just kind of iffy. And again, this is all based on my opinion. You may have a totally different opinion. You could, show me a card that I put in unplayable, it might win the tournament. So this is all just speculation. I've only played a handful of games, so I don't have the widest knowledge, but I've played quite a few card games in my time, and I can kind of see some similarities here on what could be good and what could be bad. Okay, next up is decent. These are going to be cards that you can switch out of your deck for other cards. They're not necessarily at the staple point, but they're not horrible. Like you'll have a small pool of them that you can trade out depending on your playstyle. And then staple, these are cards that are just really good for that specific color. They belong in that in a deck. If you're running red, they belong in this red. If you're running blue, they belong in blue. Cards like that. And then we have God Mode. These are cards that are just ridiculous value. They're super impressive. Yeah, just great cards that are just the best of the best. So let's go ahead and jump into this. We'll start at the top here with Mr. Rock Lee. I'm not exactly sure how to blow these cards up, but I could tell you kind of what they do. So Rock Lee is a 5 cost, 5 power. When he attacks, you gain some time. You get an EX card when he's broken. So for Rock Lee, I haven't done too much testing with him. He's to me, he's basically like a vanilla card, but just gives you some extra time when you attack with him. 5 costs, pretty big. I think we could go ahead and put him in a decent. For blue, I think he's decent. Next up is Sarada. She is a 3 cost, 1 power. She has recover, +1 guardian and attack. When you summon her, you lose a card from your hand, but then you gain an EX card, no guardian ability. So Sarada, I think in my testing, has been one of the best cards for red. So I wouldn't say she is broken at God mode, but I think definitely a good staple for any red deck. Next up is Toby. Toby's a 6 cost, 2 power. When you play him, you draw an EX card, you grab a card from your discard pile and put it in your hand. Has the same exact thing when he is broken as a guardian. So Toby, I think, is made for very specific decks. The fact that he has 2 power, he's easily targeted by a lot of different cards in the game right now. And at 6 cost, it's pretty hefty. But his ability is pretty unique, right? There's only 2 cards, I believe, that can, 2 regular battlers in the game that can grab cards back from the discard pile, so that's pretty unique. I'm going to put him under Meh because his value of cost to power ratio is just pretty ridiculous. Next up, we have this, I think it's like the fourth tell, FORTH card. 4 cost EX battler with 4 power. When it attacks, it gains, I believe, 5 power, and you draw a card. It has haste and +1 guardian ability. I think this is one of the best EX cards in the game. I don't think, very many other red cards can compete with it. I almost want to put it in God mode, but I think that it's still the fact that it has 4 power on your opponent's turn. It's kind of easy to kill, so I'll put it under staple though. Next up, we have Gara, 4 cost, 3 power. This is a Sentinel, one of the green Sentinels. When you play it, you draw an EX card, and one of my favorite guardian abilities is when it is destroyed, you gain 3 time. That is really cool. So I think Gara is definitely a staple for green. You know what? I might actually not have enough time to do this whole thing, so we may break this into 2 different parts. I see that it's almost 5 minutes in. The reason I think that this is good for green is because it's a cheap card that gets you an EX battler. 3 is really solid against red. who seems to have a lot of just 2s and 1s. And the Guardian ability is pretty awesome, so we're going to throw it into staple. Next we have the Nine-Tailed Fox. I believe this is a 9 cost, could be wrong there, but it has 10 power. When you summon it, you choose a battler. That battler gains 10 strength, has plus, I think it's 2 Guardian ability, and has fast. So this card, I think, is pretty hefty. It doesn't really give you a lot of utility. I mean, you're given a card 10 power, which is cool and all, but I think there are just some other better options. I think it's a little underwhelming. I'm going to put it in meh. Next up, we have Konohamaru, a 3 cost, I believe, for 2 power, has recovery and the Guardian ability, which I believe gives you an EX card. It's hard to see these, but I'm just trying to go based on my memory here. So recover's great, but when you're paying 3 in a red deck and only getting recover at a 2 power, it's not the best thing. I think if this card was at 3 power, it'd definitely be more of a contender. But for right now, it's borderline unplayable. I'm just going to add it to meh. Next up, we have, oh shit, I forgot his name. I think it's Zetsu, something like that. I don't know, something with a Z. I can't even see his cost. What is he, a 5, I believe? It has 4 power. When you play him, you play one of your other battlers come into play abilities, I guess is how you would say that. Has the same thing as his Guardian ability. So this guy is also a pretty unique ability. There are some pretty interesting combinations that you can use with him. I think his Guardian ability is definitely awesome, but his come into play ability, even though it's the same thing, it's like you're paying 5 to use someone else's, and I think the amount of cards in the game right now that are cost 5 and above that have come into play ability, it's just, there's only a handful. So first you would have to get that card out, then you would have to play this card. So because of that, I'm going to leave it at decent, because I think it could fit into some decks. Next up is Shikamaru. This is a 1 cost action card where you tap any battler on the field. Has the same thing for the Guardian ability. Shikamaru's, I did some testing with it, and it feels, I'm not gonna lie, kind of weak. If this was a Peter Katani video, I'd probably be giving it like 1.5 claps, like a 1 solid clap and then 1 weak clap. Because I mean, it's good when you need it, but most of the time you don't need it, so it's not that great. I'm gonna go ahead and put it in meh. It's a little underwhelming. Next up is this guy, the Frog Boy. I think he has a cost of 2. It's EX battler with 3 attack, has Legion times 3, so you can draw up to 3 cards off of him. So this card, I have an extreme bias with this card because it is one of the only EX cards that does not have fast. Yes, it has Legion, which is nice, and that's definitely for specific decks. But oh my god, there's some wild noise coming from outside. So this card, to me, because it does not have fast, and they're only, I mean, to me, it's like playing EX cards. I want that fast attack. I'm trying to go in for game, and when I draw this card and I play it, it's just like, great, now I gotta wait a turn. I mean, it just feels a little underwhelming. And then, you gotta get a kill and all that jazz. I know people are gonna hate me, but I'm putting this in unplayable. I think there are far better options than this guy. And on the opposite side of that, we have, I think his name's Gamabunta, maybe? It's another frog. Or Gamagoro, something like that. These two names I get mixed up with. But he is a 2 cost. And look, he has 4 strength or power. I'm just throwing this in the god mode. I'll explain. But okay, so he's 2 costs. He has 4 power, which is just outrageous. When he comes into play, you draw a card, so it replaces the card that you sacrificed. He has +1 guardian attacks and sentinel and fast. This to me is just a ridiculous card. I wish I could run more of this in. Every time it comes out, basically you play a card like Sai for 2, wait a turn, attack with it, then sack it for this, and then attack with it, and you've most likely just destroyed 3 guardians for just 2 times. It's pretty insane. Next up is Hiroko. This man is a 7 for 6. That's 7 cost for 6 power. He has +1 guardian attack and reinforcements. So if you're focused on building a reinforcements deck, you can go one of 2 ways in my opinion. You can go with a smaller reinforcements deck that's going to be taking advantage of Granny Chiyo and Hidan, or you could go for a larger reinforcements deck, and that's going to be taking advantage of Hidan and Hiroko. So, or you just throw them all in there. I mean, you know, who am I to judge? But I think those are kind of the two ways that I've seen interesting interactions with. So, because of his really high cost, he's kind of like the entry level into that. Like, if you get him out, you're gonna start snowballing, hopefully. I think it's a really good card, but staple, I mean, it's like a staple if you're running that kind of deck, but I can't see him being put into every single deck. I think he's more situational. And then we have Kakuzu. This guy is a 5 cost, 3 power. He gives all of your other battlers reinforcements, and just so you know, if they have reinforcements already, they get another reinforcement, so they get 2 reinforcements. That's awesome. So this card, I think if you are playing purple, and you're focused on reinforcements, which a lot of them, you know, just inherently come with, I think he's a great card because he can work for both the lower end reinforcements cards and he can work for the higher end reinforcements cards. So I think he deserves a spot as a staple. And then we have this flying bird. I gotta say flying because not all birds fly. I actually don't know what his cost is, but I know that whenever he attacks, you choose a battler. Sorry, that's the sync or something going off in the background. Every time he attacks, you choose a battler with power of 3, I believe, or less. Might be 3, might be 2, and destroy it. So pretty interesting card. Again, I just think that there are better options available, so I won't fit him under staple. I think it's great for, you know, like if you're going against, you know, cards like red, or someone's playing out a bunch of little guys in blue or something like that. You know, he's pretty decent because 6 strength is nothing to laugh at. It's really good. I think 6 strength is probably, if you can get to that, you have a very good curve and you are doing well for yourself. So congratulations. Next up we have Sai. I'm automatically going to throw him into staple. It's a 2-drop with 1 attack or 1 power, has recovery, and when he is broken, you return a battler to the owner's hand. Really great card. Can't see myself building a deck without him. Next up we have this Jutsu something something snake card. I believe it's 8 cost. For 6 power, every time it attacks, you draw 3 and discard 2 cards. That's +1 guardian, or actually it might have +2, I can't remember. And fast. So for purple, they have a lot of big EX cards, and in my opinion, the Mondo, I don't know, the giant snake, the one snake I think is better than all these snakes. So because of that, I am going to put it in meh. All right, well, how much? Oh man, we have so many more. Okay, I'm gonna do a few more and then I'll break it up into part 2 so you guys can take a look at that. Next up is Sai. Sai is a 6 cost, 5 strength battler. When you put it into play, you choose a battler, return it to its owner's hand. Does the same ability when it's broken. Sai is a staple. It's one of Red's only removal cards, and you know, it's great. It gets over those big problems. Yes, it has a really high cost, but typically what happens is you save this for, you know, the big drops that your opponent throws out. So that could be like the 8-drop Sasuke, the 8-drop Boruto, Kakashi. Sometimes, you know, even on like a 5-drop Naruto with Sentinel if you're just trying to get over it. So it gets rid of some of these problem cards before they become a problem, like a bigger problem. So really good. Next up is Shikamaru. Shikamaru is a 2-drop with 4 power, and he cannot attack battlers. He just goes for the face. I would not say that this card is a staple for green. I think it is a really strong card because it does have 4 power, so it gets over it stops a lot of cards from killing it. So that's pretty good, but I'm just going to slide it into decent. And then next we have Shino as a 2-drop with 1 power, has the protector ability, or protect, or whatever you want to call it. So Shino is pretty decent for blue. I think if you're building a deck that revolves around protect, you know, there's only 3 of them in there, so he is one of them. He's not going to be doing much attacking, just kind of chilling there, but he's protecting your bigger cards. So I'm going to put him, I wish I could put him between these, but I I think because not everyone's going to build blue for protect, we'll just throw him in decent. Next up is this giant frog. I believe he is a 4 or 5 cost with 5 power when he attacks. I believe you gain 3 time and he has fast. I think he's pretty good blue. I don't know about staple. I think he's definitely a good contender for blue. I often find myself putting him into my decks, but I think he can be swapped out for another card, so we'll put him there. Okay, and we'll do one more, and then I'll break it off into part 2. So the last one is the giant snake that I was referring to. I believe this is a 8 cost EX battler, has 8 power. Every time it attacks, destroy a card with 2 or less. Also has reinforcements, +1 guardian ability, and fast. So I really like this card because it has reinforcements built into it, which is pretty awesome for a EX battler. So even if they do get rid of it, you can end up dropping another EX battler or another giant threat onto the board. So that's really cool. I would say if you're playing purple, it doesn't, I mean, your other color that you're running is probably going to have enough cards where you don't have to run this. I think it's for very specific decks that do want to take advantage of that high reinforcements. So I'll put it under decent. Okay, so that sums up part 1. Join me for part 2 shortly, and we'll go over hopefully the rest of these cards in that episode. Thanks so much.